let's turn to the next generation. Let's ask Lauren what her experiences have been managing BASIS, which is the student-run endowment for Virginia Tech. And I think you have, what, $5 million in there to manage from the foundation?
Yeah,
So tell us first a little bit about the organization, how you make decisions, and did you have anything in Silicon Valley Bank?
I will say yes, and then I will go into the BASIS description just to keep you guys hanging for a little bit. BASIS stands for Bond and Securities Investing by Students, so we do invest $5 million of the endowment in bonds on behalf of the Virginia Tech Foundation. Our portfolio consists of corporates, sovereigns and supranationals, and treasuries. In the credit selection process, we kind of do rigorous analysis on industries, companies, and bond specifics. We look for relative value in those credit selections as well as in duration. We position our portfolio on the yield curve to benefit from rate movements. It's a really good opportunity for all the students. I think we all come out of it with a well-rounded knowledge in fixed income in the markets, as well as also a well-rounded skill set for any career path that you're going to go into. We did hold SVB. I don't know if Dr. Morgan wants to add anything more on the credit selection process.
No, I think that pretty well covers it. I mean, it's a pretty extensive process that the students go through. It's maybe drawn out on a longer time frame than what most of you are used to doing, but the students have full course loads that they're working on, and so it takes us a little longer to get through the full process, but they do an industry analysis, as she said, company analysis, bond analysis, so it takes quite a bit of effort on their part to parse through even once they define who the company is and what the bond will be. And before that, there's a long process of trying to select and try to keep our portfolio diversified too, even within a sector like the financial sector, so that we're not all concentrated on the largest commercial banks in the country. They've made an effort to diversify out of sort of the common suspects and trying to get into other parts of the financial industry.
So George, how closely do you guide the students' decisions?
Boy, that's a loaded question. It's their decisions.
That's good.
I'm the advisor, and I'm just trying to keep them within the bounds of what our investment policy is. We have a very specific investment policy, and basically, as long as they stay in that policy, I'm not going to veto any decision that they make. It's up to them, and the responsibility and the accountability is with them. Now, if they're doing something crazy and wanting to go into cryptocurrency, that's not in our investment policy. So I would step in and say, no, we can't do that. But otherwise, they do a good job.
So Lauren can say, right, this bond it's an investment grade bond, right? I mean, so the investment rating agencies had this bond rated pretty well.
They did. It was split rated, I think A3 and BBB.
Yeah.
It was, Dr. Morgan may have disagreed with our investment decision on that, and he might have been right, but.
I didn't hear you. What did you say, Lauren? I mean, he's retiring. He needs his gift. Okay, yeah. All right.
No.
Yeah,
Right.
of course.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ask Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So how did the students react when this happened, and what did you do to recover from it?
Well, we were all on spring break. I will put that first. Dr. Morgan was out of town, and the entire exec team is out of town, so it was kind of a tricky situation, but we all kind of jumped to our feet and went into analyzing the company and the bond. So on that Friday, when it got downgraded to high yield, we are an investment grade fund, so there was no way we're able to hold it anymore. So the question went from do we sell to when? So over the weekend, we go into super in-depth analysis on trying to estimate the price of the bond given bankruptcy proceedings and what we would get out of a liquidation and what the hedge funds would think it should be priced at. And then from that, we gave our little ballpark and went into the trading process. And that was a whole problem in and of itself. we only have investment grade brokers because, what do we need a high yield broker for an investment grade fund? So that was an hours long process trying to find a broker that would trade with us and who could trade our bond. Lots of alums were helping us out, so shout out to you guys if you were on the phone with us. After that, we were able to find a broker and a counterparty to sell the position to. And some lessons, I think, to come out of that, aside from having a high yield, trader to back us up in that way, was probably the difference between operating and holding companies in the banking sector specifically. I think the role of the FDIC is huge in that, and I think it's something that we don't give enough credit to, and that if, in the event of a default, that operating asset, the biggest asset of the bank, can be taken away in seconds. So really, when we're holding the holding company, that all the assets are pretty much gone. So trying to figure out what's left, how do we get compensated for that risk that we took in the initial investment decision, I think is the biggest thing on that front. I think what was important as well was the FHLB-like borrowings. That's something that we didn't know was a red flag until after it happened. So after that process as well, we went into all of our other holdings and tried to figure out, are these a risk? Should we be looking at the entire financial sector? 'Cause, there was Charles Schwab, I think, at the top of the list. So we had to make sure, if we're in any asset managers or anything like that, that we would get that off our books.
So
Lauren, may I ask, what was the realized price on the sale of the security?
I don't think I'm allowed to answer that.
I'm just curious. Less than 10 cents, I'm going to guess?
No,
No.
much better than that.
Better than that? I don't know. I'm just curious.
So this was kind of the curiosity. So I think what we learned is that what Dr. Morgan has said all along about OpCo and HoldCo was wrong. So because we were actually quite a bit better off by having the HoldCo instead of the OpCo. Because like Lauren said, the FDIC just grabbed that out from under, and if we had had a bond in the bank,
Right.
it would have been zero.
The holding company in this case had other assets.
They had other assets, and so the bond. Again, we're on spring break, and we're trying to look for the price of the bond, and it's still trading. Why is it still trading? Friday, Monday, it's still trading. It's because it was the holding company, and that hadn't gone into bankruptcy yet. So we were able to sell it before it went into bankruptcy, and it may do even better. It may actually end up back at where we bought it.
Good heavens.
But we can't.
Wow.
But we can't buy it. We can't hold it anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, our joke was we'd come to the court proceedings up here and get our assets back.
Right.
Lauren, as someone who's done problem loans and workouts early in my career, I would suggest, painful as this is probably the best lesson in the history of basis. You learned a lot of things. Bond ratings are not homogenous. You can't simply say it's good because it says triple B and that assume that all triple Bs or whatever it was are the same. Markets don't help you if markets aren't operating. If there's no buyer, it's worth nothing. And then all of these sort of unexpected events, if it never occurred to us from a contingency planning standpoint that we might actually have to sell something that's not investment grade, what would you do? And so these are the sort of scenarios that we live with, ourselves. So I would say, this was a good lesson, and you learned a lot as a result of it.
Yeah, and I think kind of back to the LTCM, liquidity dries up in a crisis.
Yes, it does.
You have a position and you're trying to liquidate it, you may not be able to.
Right.
Even though it started out looking like a great deal with all the Nobel physicists at LTCM, in a crisis, you're going to have a big problem liquidating. And fortunately, we didn't have that big of a problem in liquidating. It was a bit of a struggle, but Mike Kosciuszko knows distressed debt trading is a different animal.
All right.